And community engagement with Burhan. Tonight, we have one of the brightest person, Kristin Boggs, in our broadcast. Kristin, welcome to our broadcast, community engagement with Burhan.
Thank you for having me.
And another thing is, I know people know you, it was Kristin Boggs, State District 18, minority leader. So I know you're running 10 district, appeal court. So can you talk about who Kristin is, those who don't know you?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm really excited to get to talk to you and get to connect with folks, and happy to share a little bit about how I got into this crazy world of politics and why I'm running for judge. So I am currently the state representative for Ohio's 18th House District. I've been in this role for about 7 years now, which is crazy how fast time has gone. During that time, I've been in leadership a significant time for the Democratic caucus. And I feel like probably most people in the community know me as a state legislator. Prior to joining the State House, though, I was an Ohio Assistant Attorney General for about 10 years. I started at the AG's office right out of law school. I went to Cleveland Marshall up north in Cleveland, moved down to Columbus in 2007 because I got a job at the Ohio Attorney General's office, and I was lucky to be put in the first assistant section. And just by virtue of happen chance, you can hear my dog scratching at the doors to get in. Just as luck would have it, my office was next door to the Solicitor General's office. And the Solicitor General is the attorney in charge of handling all of the appellate work for the Ohio Attorney General's office. And one of the first cases that they received after I had started working there was a case where they were representing the Ohio Civil Rights Commission. And the controversy in question was whether or not it was gender discrimination for a woman to lose her employment because she needed to take sick leave to give birth to her child. And the Civil Rights Commission was arguing that this was a form of gender discrimination to fire a woman for needing to take leave to give birth, and obviously her employer was arguing that no, this wasn't gender discrimination because they had a policy that no one was entitled to sick leave until they had been employed for 1 full year. As you probably know, pregnancy is not a 52-week condition; it's a 40-week condition. So women who would get pregnant within the first 12 weeks or 3 months of their employment wouldn't be eligible for any sick leave to be able to give birth to the baby. We unfortunately lost that case in the Supreme Court. But as you can imagine, that case just resonated with me so deeply. And I knew after being exposed to that kind of litigation that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to fight those fights. I wanted to do that kind of advocacy work. And so I went to, after I had been in the first assistant section, I transferred to what's called the Court of Claims section. And I transferred that section because it was the section where you would get the most litigation experience, that I'd have the ability to handle cases from the time a complaint was filed to the time it went up to the 10th District Court of Appeals. So I spent a lot of time trying cases in the Ohio Court of Claims and then arguing those cases in the 10th District. So for a lot of reasons, it feels like I'm kind of going back to where it all began in running for the 10th District Court of Appeals now.
Wow, that's amazing. It's somebody who's really fighting for underserved people, who are fighting in a big corporation. That's amazing. And also, could you talk about a little about 10th District Court of Appeals?
Yeah.
Broadly in general, what they do in terms of like.
Yeah. So the 10th district next to the Ohio Supreme Court, I think, is probably the most important court in our state. It is the court that handles all of the appeals that come from the Franklin County Municipal Court, the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas. It handles the appeals for the Ohio Court of Claims, which is a special court where if you bring a lawsuit against the state of Ohio, you have to bring that lawsuit in the Ohio Court of Claims. And so it is the only district court in the entire state that hears appeals from the Court of Claims. And because the 10th district is located in Franklin County, it has unique jurisdiction over a lot of the state agencies and their administrative decisions that go through the Franklin County courts themselves. And just the breadth of kind of cases that they get to touch and have consideration over is so huge compared to even the other district courts in our state. So the 10th district is really just a really unique court. And like I said, it's in my opinion, probably the most important court in our state next to the Ohio Supreme Court.
Wow, those the biggest, court that has domestic relations, general probate.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. Also, I see there's a judges terms of how many judges? 8 judges?
Yeah, so we have 8 judges that are considered 10th district court judges, and they sit in panels of 3. So any 3 of those 8 would be considering the appeal that comes up at the time that they're sort of slotted to sit for.
Mm-hmm. And then also that is how many seats now is up now, election 4?
Yeah, so there's a huge, half the court is up right now, which is unusual to have that many seats up at once, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I see no contest with David Linden and
right.
Okay.
Wow.
Linden, yeah. So another thing is comes to my mind is you're somebody who advocated, which is the 2007, 2016. The Attorney General of Victim Crime. That's something it really resonated a lot of immigrants, minorities, and everybody. That's huge.
Yeah, yeah. I had the chance to manage our legal unit in our crime victim services section, and our crime victim services section is actually, I think, something that I wish more Ohioans knew about, because it is an incredible program that works to not only financially restore individuals that have been the victims of crimes, but also connecting them with resources and much needed support in ways where we might have access to information and to connections that they need to help get them back to as close as they were before the criminal incident happened. And so the program is really incredible. It will award up to $50,000 of economic loss for folks who have suffered a criminal incident, and will allow those individuals to access that money if they need it for expenses for medical bills, expenses for counseling bills, if they need to everything from if you have a counselor that says in order to feel safe and secure in your home now you need to have new locks put in, it would pay that funding can be used to pay for new locks on your house or security systems. It's really it is a very flexible and generous program that I wish more Ohioans knew existed and would partake in.
Wow. In terms of term, how many terms limit is that? The term is not 6, 8, or 6?
So the terms in the 10th District Court of Appeals are 6-year terms. And there are no limits as to how many times you can run, which is different than our legislative branch, and some of our executive offices as well. And the only restriction is you can't run after you're 70 years old. But I gotta ways before I'm 70.
Yeah, it's amazing. Somebody who really worked in the criminal justice system, worked at the Attorney General, deals with a lot of legal issues, and you care about many issues that's being advocated. This is coming from your heart and trying to make an impact. Very interesting things. What you want to see, people who watching, who will be able to don't know Kristin Boggs. You in the pilot, you running in district. What's his message in those immigrants, new Americans, and new immigrants who will be watching later on Facebook Live?
Yeah.
To give them the message.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're in such a unique time in our history. Especially I think in the state of Ohio, where and Ohio is a reflection, I think, of the country. There is this tension and this I think fight that's happening between the different branches of our government. I mean, our democracy is the foundation of it is this idea that we have these three co-equal branches of government that check each other and balance each other and are each individually their own, hold their own power. And I had, working in the AG's office, just an incredible amount of respect for the judiciary, because I, was practicing in front of the, in the courts every day of my time in the AG's office. I had an incredible amount of the respect for the executive branch, because the AG's office is part of the executive branch of government. And so when I went to the legislature, I assumed that the legislature would hold the judiciary and the executive branches in as high regard as I felt the judiciary and executive branches saw the role of the legislature. And what I found was I was just wrong. I took an oath when I joined the legislature to uphold the Constitution. And for me, that in the most simplest terms meant that I wouldn't pass legislation that was flagrantly unconstitutional. And this legislature doesn't give consideration to constitutionality of the policies that it's trying to put forward. This legislature has been fighting with the executive branch, fighting with the judiciary branch, and quite frankly, really doesn't want either of those branches to be a check on it. I tell people all the time, this fight that's happening in redistricting, it's not a fight between the Democrats and the Republicans. No Democrat has ever said that a map wouldn't be constitutional that gave the Republicans majority. The Republicans are fighting for a veto-proof majority. They don't want the governor to be able to have veto power over the bills that this legislature passes, which is one of the most principled checks that was dedicated to the executive power, so that you wouldn't see these bills and these laws that were wholly unsupported by the majority of the constituents in the state. So I'm running, I guess, my long-winded answer, I'm running because I think our judiciary branch is just incredibly important, especially in this time in history, to have a strong judicial branch and to have judges who are there because they hold the Constitution as in high regard as I do. is just incredibly important right now. I think it is really, really going to be what is necessary to save our democracy. And I don't say that lightly. I say that because I'm truly worried about the direction the state is headed if we continue to try to diminish the powers of the two other branches of government.
Wow, that's powerful because legislation a lot of time you have no control past, and then the only system we have the court, and that's the where really court can push back some of the things. But what struck me, one of the things is a quote from you. It will touch me very interesting. You said you can't rewrite the law as a judge, but you can certainly apply it in a manner that hopefully continues to help move the state forward in a way that is equitable and just. That's very powerful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
This is really. Can you talk about more about what you mean in terms of that power? I mean, it's like a lot of people.
I think that we all can appreciate that when you pass legislation, there are so many shades of gray in that bill. And as a member of the legislature, I think I have a real full appreciation of, as much as you try to anticipate how that law will be applied, and as much as you try to think of all the potential hypothetical situations that could intersect with the policy that you're trying to put forward, you can never think of everything. And I think one of the examples of that is legislation that I worked on to reform the caps on damages for survivors of sexual violence. I don't think, and in fact, Steve Stivers, who introduced that legislation and that ultimately got passed, has publicly said he didn't contemplate sexual survivors when they were writing that legislation to cap that ultimately ended up capping the damages that they were eligible to receive. And I think that you have to stay within the four corners of the law as a judge. I mean, that is the respect that I have for the legislature and the executive branch as being equal to the judiciary. I cannot, as a judge, take my pen and rewrite the law, but I do think that there are always opportunities where you can look for those nuances to push forward for the progress and the values and the desires of what the voters of Ohio want. I mean, there are some common sense things that you can address through your decisions on the bench to ensure that people have access to the ballots, people have, opportunity for justice, at their hearings, people have the transparency that they're entitled to. People can, feel like that in this process that they have been going through, entangled in litigation, that at least it was fair. At least it was, at least the law was applied equitably and in a way that was not unfathomable or unpredictable. That's sort of, I think, will be my goal as a judge on the bench.
Wow, it's amazing. I mean, you're somebody who really advocated many issues by legal fight in the court, understands the system of the court. You have a lot of experience on day to day. This election is a very crucial election, and we know, a lot of things in the stake. But I want to make sure that everybody who's watching, look, Kristin Boggs, 10th District Court of Appeals is a very serious court that we really need to have somebody who understands the law, somebody who cares about things that happen, matters every single day. So, Kristin, in your opinion, what's your message tonight to the communities, immigrants in general, and those who not even immigrants are watching or watching later on? So, what's your message So the voting is the end the last few days on the field.
Yeah, well, certainly, I mean, the most important message I have is make sure you vote. It is so incredibly important to vote and to exercise your right to vote, to exercise your opportunity to show that you care about the leaders that represent you and are making decisions in this community. I mean, I think it's really funny. There's always been this debate about whether judges should be appointed or judges should be elected, because judges shouldn't be political. But what we always see when we have, done polling on this issue is Ohioans want to know that their judges share their values, and they want to have the ability to hold their judges accountable if those judges are not issuing decisions that reflect the values of the community and the values of the state. And so, from my perspective, I have a record of, representing that 18th House district in Franklin County. People should have a really good idea or a good sense of where my values are, what I believe in, what I stand for. And if they don't, I'm always open to people reaching out and asking me for more information about where I stand on issues and what my candidacy entails. But I certainly think that I have been so privileged to represent the Franklin County community in the legislature. I see moving to the 10th District Court of Appeals as a continuation of a lifelong career that I've had in public service. And I hope that based on the work that I've done in the legislature, people feel like they know who I am, feel like they know what I stand for, and feel confident in my ability to continue serving them on the court.
Thank you. That's very powerful, because somebody who represented the community, somebody judges that impacted the communities every single day, their livelihood, their policy, and everything. And one of the things I want to mention is please vote. 1700 Morse Road, early voting started already. It's opened up place. Please consider also support Kristin Boggs. She's somebody who's really there for every single issue from the county. When all this happening, she's always accessible issues that she cares about. One more question, Kristin, this is the last question I'm going to ask you. If you've been elected, you're coming back to the community, have engagement, kind of talk to some of the, I know a lot of judges are coming and doing educational sessions. You're open to?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, I have, in my role as a legislator, I think one of the hardest things about COVID has been not being able to be out in the community and engaging in office hours and events. And finally, over the last, 6 months, it feels like it's starting to kind of feel like it's getting back to normal or the new normal. And so I certainly plan on continuing to be present, be available, be accessible. And certainly if there are events or occasions that you think it would be appropriate for me to show up and say hi, I would love to do that.
Thank you, Christina, for community engagement program. I want to make sure, please consider Christina. She's an amazing young lady who does a lot of impact our communities in Central Ohio, especially Franklin County. Please support her. Make sure you consider your vote for her. She's somebody who really cares about, so many issues, advocated victim of crime, multiple issues. She had life of public service, her entire life. We appreciate it for your public service and things you do, Christina, and we'll support you. The community support you. That's why we make sure that, people who really had the background of public service to be the icon of our communities in general in Franklin County. And thank you for your leadership, and we appreciate for your success. And we'll continue support you here after Judge you come elected. And thank you for everything you have done.
Well, I appreciate you having me here tonight, and I appreciate this conversation, and thank you so much for your support. It means the world. It really does.
All right, thank you. And everybody, thank you for watching, also connecting with the community engagement program. This is a way we educate the community about the issues that are important surrounded by Franklin County and Ohio in general. We'll continue those engagement, and thank you each and everyone. Please consider to vote Kristin and Boggs. Look at the judges at down ballot. Everybody, please touch all the way down. Judges is a very important. Those are judges impacts every day in life. So please consider to look those who's impacting our communities and make sure you really voted. Please vote it. Everybody vote, inshallah. Thank you.